Who's actually getting value out of a 3-in-1 laser welding machine? If you're a hobbyist who's tired of fiddling with MIG guns, a small shop looking to replace a cluttered bench of tools, or a maker who wants clean cuts and welds without swapping equipment, the xTool MetalFab 800W might feel like a dream. On the other hand, if you only weld a few projects a year, already have a solid MIG/TG rig, or you're limited on space and ventilation, you might end up paying for capabilities you'll never use. And for the everyday buyer wondering whether the price tag is justified, the real question is, does the convenience of welding, cutting, and cleaning in one unit outweigh the hidden costs of power, setup, and learning? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first heard about the MetalFab, the headline promise was simple: industrial-grade power, flawless welds, and a zero learning curve. That sounded almost too good to be true, so I dug into forums, watched a handful of user-generated videos, and read the handful of technical write-ups that exist. The common thread was that people love the idea of consolidating 3 processes into one box, but they're also wary of the practicalities, especially around safety, ventilation, and the actual time it takes to get decent results. Let's start with the setup. The unit arrives in a sturdy metal case, roughly the size of a small printer, with a power cable, a water cooling hose, and a control panel that looks like a tablet. Plug it in, attach the cooling line to a standard aquarium pump, and you're ready to power up. For a shop that already has a water chiller and a dedicated 240V circuit, that's a quick drop-in. For a garage hobbyist, you'll likely need to add a small reservoir and maybe upgrade your outlet, which adds a bit of extra cost and effort. The first practical strength here is the all-in-one design. You don't have to buy a separate cutter, a separate weld head, and a separate cleaning unit. In a real-world workflow, that means you can take a piece of steel, lay it on the work surface, cut the shape you need, weld the joints, and then fire the cleaning pulse without moving the part to a different machine. In the videos I watched, that reduced total project time by roughly 30% compared to a traditional setup. Now, the welding itself. The 800-watt laser delivers enough energy to melt thin-gauge steel, around 1 mm to 3 mm, in a single pass. In practice, that translates to clean, narrow weld beads that look more like a professional seam than a traditional arc weld. Users who posted before and after photos of small brackets and decorative metal art praised the consistency. Once you dial in the right speed and focus, the laser just does the work. The strength of those welds, however, depends on the material thickness and the fit-up of the pieces. For thicker plates, above 5 mm, the laser starts to struggle, and you'll notice more spatter and a weaker joint. So the practical weakness is that this isn't a replacement for a heavy-duty MIG/TG setup if you're building structural frames or working with thick automotive panels. The cutting function is where the 3-in-1 claim shines the most for many makers. The same laser head can be set to a higher power mode, and you can slice through aluminum and mild steel with a kerf that's razor thin. In a typical makerspace scenario, that means you can carve out custom enclosures or trim sheet metal without ordering pre-cut parts. The trade-off is that you need proper exhaust. The laser produces a fine plume of metal particles and ozone, which is harmless in a well-ventilated shop, but can become a health hazard in a small garage without an extraction system. The unit does come with a built-in fan, but it's primarily for cooling the laser, not for pulling fumes out of the room. So you'll need a separate vent hood or a window fan to stay safe, adding another piece of equipment you might not have accounted for. Cleaning is the third pillar. A quick burst of low-energy laser pulses that burn away oxidation and surface grime. For people who do a lot of restoration work, that can be a massive time saver. Instead of sandblasting or chemically stripping, you can run a short cleaning pass and get a metal surface ready for paint or further machining. The limitation here is that the cleaning function works best on relatively flat surfaces. Intricate parts with deep recesses may still need manual polishing. So who should actually buy this? If you're running a small fabrication business that frequently switches between cutting, welding, and surface prep, the MetalFab consolidates 3 machines into one footprint, saving floor space and potentially cutting capital expense. It also appeals to hobbyists who are moving beyond a hobby-level MIG gun but aren't ready to invest in a full-scale laser cutter. The durability claim engineered for a lifetime of creation holds up if you treat the machine well. Keep the optics clean, monitor the water cooling loop, and don't push the laser beyond its recommended material thickness. For those users, the value comes.